Welcome, friends, to a special session for adult day programs on sensory-friendly activities that you can do to support engagement and regulation and quality of life for all of your friends who attend at your adult day program. So happy that you are here with us. Thank you for taking time out of your day. I'm so happy to be joined by my colleague, Dr. Angelica, and she works here at COPSA with us. She has been supporting us for the past few years. She helps us with support groups. She does webinars for us, and she does great trainings like this for professionals as well. She really brings a unique perspective. She is an occupational therapist, so she's expanding our knowledge about how we can approach our friends who have memory lost diseases and how we can best engage with them. So really looking forward to this session. So everybody is going to receive a handout that summarizes all the information that Dr. Angelica is going to cover with us today, and then also flyers for our upcoming programs. If you have colleagues that couldn't make this one and still want to attend some of our other learning enrichment sessions, May the 12th is our next one, and that is on safety with swallowing. We want to prevent aspiration and support our friends as they're eating and drinking. And then we have another great webinar in June on just right activities. So basing that on a person's level of ability. So great more opportunities, and giving a plug if you are a social worker or a nurse and you need continuing education credits. We have in-person sessions May the 5th and May the 7th. You will receive the flyers for those. We're talking about complex problem solving and also supporting our members who may be aging alone, solo agers. And we have a virtual component to those on June the 9th and June the 10th as well. So, Dr. Angelica, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mary Catherine, for the warm introduction. I'm excited to be here. And I want to thank everyone for being here today and start by acknowledging the work that you do every day. Adult day programs are incredibly important to the lives of people living with dementia and for all of their families. Many families rely on programs like yours, not only for safety and supervision, but for engagement, connection, and improved quality of life. So the truth is that you all, the staff at these adult day programs are often the first people to notice changes in someone's behavior, mood, participation, mobility, or even communication skills. So we're going to be talking about today is utilizing a sensory-friendly approach in order to support the nervous system of individuals living with dementia. We're going to talk about why the brain changes in dementia, make sensory environments more important, and then we're going to go through some practical strategies that you can use in your program as soon as tomorrow.
Oh, Angelica, sorry to interrupt, but I forgot to ask everybody, where do you work? We would love to hear from everybody. If people could type in chat
Sure,
and let
yes.
us know, where is your center? Are you medical? Are you social? Are you both? We would love to hear that.
Yeah, let's take a minute and everyone can type that in the chat. That would be great.
You might have a neighbor here and you're not even aware of it.
Great. We have Sherry from Active Day in Bridgeton. We have Jenny from Medical Daycare. We have Kelly from Adult Daycare Medical Adult Day in Red Bank. We have Askarali here from Active Day in Washington Township. Anna's here from the Adult Daycare Center. Maria's here from Dawn to Dusk Wellbeing Center. Ira's here from Adult Day in Hamilton. And Stephanie's here from Generation Station in Logan Township, New Jersey. Great. Amazing. You guys are all from all over. Great participation already. I appreciate it. Thank you all for sharing. And so again, my name is Dr. Angelica Katusko. I'm an occupational therapist specializing in dementia care, consulting, and caregiver education. My background is in neuroscience and cognitive science with a focus in development and aging. And a lot of my work focuses on helping caregivers, healthcare teams, and communities to better support individuals living with dementia through those practical strategies and education. So a big part of my work is helping teams recognize small functional changes and finding ways to support safety, independence, and quality of life. So I would love for everyone to take a minute and share in the chat, how is your nervous system right now? We're talking about yours, how you feel in your body on a scale from 0 to 5. 0, maybe you're completely depleted. 5, maybe you're feeling fantastic and you're very well energized. And if we're being honest, many of us might be around a 2 right now or 1. I know it's kind of the end of the week and it's been a crazy week for a lot of us. Maybe you've had a long shift today. Maybe you're tired and a little overstimulated. Maybe some part of your body is hurting. Maybe it's your feet or your back. Okay, I'm just popping into the chat. Oh, wow. A lot of you are on the higher scale. You're feeling good. Okay. I see 4.8, 3, 4.5, another 4.5, 3, 3, 3, 4, 3. Great. 4, perfect. I would say for me today, I'm kind of falling under that 3 category, but we're here. We're just carrying on. We're acknowledging how our body's feeling, but we're not judging it. And that's completely normal. And what matters is that we are aware of how our nervous system and how our body is feeling so that we can really give our body what it's needing. So we're going to try a short little experiment together. So I'm going to play a short video, and all I want you to do is sit here calmly, watch this video, and notice how your body feels.
Angelica, I don't hear the sound. So you may have to stop sharing and then when you share, hit share sound.
Let's see. Hmm. Even if you can't hear the sound, I want us to just kind of watch the video.
And we do
I
have
wish that you
sound.
can hear it too. Oh, you can,
Yes.
Sandra?
Oh, all
Okay.
right, good, good.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you all for joining me with that. So I want to check in one more time. Anyone's nervous system may be feeling a little bit differently now. And if you feel maybe a little bit more calm or even just a little bit point 0.2 better, I would love for you to put it in that chat. Great. Thank you all. I see Mary Catherine said it was relaxing to watch the water. It made me think of stress-free times. Anne said running water always brings you down a couple notches. Barbara said 4.5 better. Sandra said 4, quick, soothing, relaxing video. So I want you all to notice I played that video for about 20 seconds, really a short period of time. And even just in a short period of time, we can have a small shift for our nervous system. Not only does this work for us, but this also works for the people that we're taking care of. Maybe you feel a little calmer. Maybe your breathing slowed down. Maybe your shoulders dropped just a little bit, maybe just an inch. Every small sensory change can influence how our nervous system responds to our environment. Research shows that even something as simple as taking 3 slow breaths before a meeting can help to regulate your nervous system and allow you to respond more effectively to your colleagues. So imagine if our nervous systems respond this quickly to sensory changes, how powerful the environment must be for someone whose brain is already struggling in order to regulate itself. So we're going to talk about our nervous system. So our nervous system is constantly scanning the environment and asking one question: am I safe right now? It's that biological input that we get, and the brain is able to think, communicate, participate, and engage socially. But when our nervous system is overwhelmed or overstimulated, the brain shifts into a protective state. When this happens, we might notice within ourselves, or even for those around us, we might see behaviors like agitation, pacing, frustration, withdrawal. And these responses are often the nervous system trying to cope with stress or overstimulation. Very simply, our nervous system has two major states. One is the fight or flight response for the sympathetic nervous system, which is the body's stress response. So when we're in this state, our body is preparing to react to a perceived threat. You might see things in your participants of, as I mentioned before, maybe that pacing, agitation, irritability, or even increased confusion. The other state is our regulated calm state, that rest and digest, very calm, very regulated. When the nervous system feels safe, people are able to engage in activities, participate in conversations, respond versus react, follow directions, and feel comfortably more socially. So, our goal in dementia care is often not to control behavior, but to help support the nervous system so regulation becomes more possible. When we have conditions like dementia, as we get older and the brain progresses in its disease process, a lot of the times it's a lot more challenging for the body to naturally regulate itself emotionally. So it takes more time, effort, and energy, and sometimes is quite confusing for participants to describe how they're feeling or even interpret what they're feeling in their body. When they're feeling anxious, they might not always be able to say, I'm feeling anxious right now. So, research consistently shows that environmental strategies and non-pharmaceutical interventions should be the first approach to managing behavioral symptoms, especially in dementia. Medications can sometimes help, but they often provide modest benefits and then come with some significant side effects. So, approaches like environmental modification, sensory regulation, and meaningful engagement are considered really essential components of dementia care. So adult day staff, you're often the first to notice changes in mood, pacing, withdrawal, or agitation. And these behaviors are frequently the nervous system responding to the environment. And when we understand sensory input, we can adjust the environment to help participants feel more regulated and engaged. And in turn, this also helps for yourself as well, right? You're working a really long day, you're interacting with all different types of people. Your own regulation might be skewed as well. So these strategies, not only do they help the people that you're working with, but in tune, it also helps you as well. So just something to keep in mind. Many adult programs are naturally very stimulating environments. There's conversations happening, music playing, activities going on, people moving around. And for someone with a healthy brain, this might feel pretty normal. But for someone living with dementia, the brain has a difficult time filtering all of that information. So imagine being in a room where everything feels really loud and equally important. That could be really overwhelming very quickly. I think about when you go to the mall and you go in certain stores and there's just a lot of colors and loud music and stimulation. You might be thinking about maybe one or two environments in particular that maybe you typically avoid because it just makes you feel overstimulated. So when this happens, the nervous system may shift into a stress response and we may see those behaviors again. So I would love for you all to take a minute to share in the chat. Think about the participants that you work with in your program. What kinds of behaviors have you noticed? Have you noticed pacing, agitation, increased anxiety, wandering, withdrawal, or even refusing activities? And then if you wanted to share as well, what do you think might have triggered those behaviors? Is it usually clear, or does sometimes take a little longer for you to figure out? I'm going to give everyone a few more minutes to think about it and type your response in the chat. Mary Catherine mentioned when someone needs to leave earlier to go home. Absolutely. Sherry said very much. It's very clear when people are overstimulated. Anna said loud music or too many people talking at the same time, even clapping hands. Yeah, right. For some people, maybe that's exciting, but for others, it's too much. Anyone else want to share? Or any other triggers that you can think of that sometimes happen at your facility? Anna said pacing, wandering, and refusing activities, confusion with watching other members leaving, although at We Care, they love music. Oh, great. Yeah, and I can definitely see that too, right? You're watching other people leave, and it kind of is this confusion around it. What time of day? What does the routine look like? Am I supposed to leave? Where am I going? What's happening? Maria said, yes, I've seen a few of individuals walking away from activities or having a hard time to get them to join an activity. Yeah. And then Barbara said, when clients start to leave. And said, and why aren't they the ones leaving first? Absolutely. Right? Even as we get older, we don't necessarily want to be the last one there. Um, So all um, good that we're pointing it out and recognizing it and acknowledging what we're noticing with our clients and what is triggering these behaviors. I almost think about, is there another door that people can leave through? Can people slowly trickle out? How can we make the environment a little bit less overstimulating and problem solve, what we're seeing? So I want to talk a little bit more about how behavior is communication. So one of the most important things I want everyone to remember is that what we see is how some people are communicating with us. People living with dementia, sometimes if they're feeling agitated or overwhelmed, as I mentioned before, they might have a hard time verbalizing what they're feeling, what's going on, or even processing how all of that is. So we can ask, what is their nervous system experiencing right now? Maybe sensory overload. Maybe the lights are too bright. Maybe they're fatigued. Maybe they're feeling discomfort. Maybe they have an unmet need. Maybe they're hungry, thirsty, or maybe have to use the toilet, or having confusion about the time of the day or why their friend is leaving and they're still seated there. When we look at behavior through this lens, our responses typically change. Occupational therapy looks at three main things: the person, the environment, and the activity. This sets us up for a just right challenge and to meet our clients where they are. So participation happens when these three things are balanced. If an activity is too complicated, the person might become frustrated. If the environment is too loud or maybe too quiet or too dark or too bright, the person might become dysregulated. And if we adjust the environment or the activity, we can often support participation again. I think of it like a triangle in that regard for person, environment, activity. And this is where sensory friendly strategies become very helpful. I wanted you all to take a minute to share in the chat. Maybe we can get some ideas from each other and I can learn a little bit more about what your facility is already doing. But what are some ways your adult daycare center has created sensory-friendly environments or activities for participations, for increased participation of your participants? Mary Catherine asked in the chat, does anyone have a quiet room at their center? Sandra said yes. Great. Maria said yes. Does anyone want to share what's in their quiet room or what it typically feels like when you go inside there? Or even how participants usually respond to that type of environment? Anna said we have a calming room with a fish tank for relaxation. Great. Jenny said my activity staff is very good at doing activities with our clients who have dementia, and we have a quiet room too. Maria said, yes, we do, and a sensory room. I would love to hear what components are in that sensory room as well, if you wouldn't mind sharing, Maria. Sherry said, yes, and a memory room. Wow, I would also love to hear what's in there too. And then Anne said, we try to do hands-on activities such as painting, crafting, breaking into small groups for low-functioning members. That's fantastic. Very client-centered, and you meet everyone where they're at. Sandra said, a space away where everything else is happening. And Anne said, we have a quiet room with recliners, and that helps. Oh, absolutely. When we think about to energy expenditure, when we are laying down, our body is utilizing the least amount of energy. And then when we're sitting up, it's a little bit more. When we're standing up, it's a little bit more. And then we're standing, obviously, it's a lot more. So it really is very nice if someone is feeling overwhelmed to have them lay down versus stand up, because then that just helps with our energy conservation. Maria said the sensory room has touch lights on the walls, yoga balls, bean bags, floor mats, a small mirror, decals, and we're open to adding more. That is fabulous. It's so important to have rooms like that. And we're going to go into it a little bit more in this presentation as well of, kind of how our sensory systems relate to rooms like this and how we can help promote relaxation in the body utilizing those systems. Jenny said they use the quiet room with recliners and they have massage too. They use it to pray, read, or sleep. Well, I think everyone here right now would love to lay in a recliner with a massage chair with some lovely music on. That sounds fabulous. Thank you all for sharing. So I want to go through, those sensory-friendly checklist items: reducing background noise, clearing walking paths, reducing visual clutter, providing quiet areas, having predictable daily routines, and accessing simple sensory tools. And it sounds like the majority of facilities here are already doing this, and it's good to have these strategies, whether it is for the quiet room or for any other part of the facility. And then these environments, they don't require expensive equipment or complicated programs. Often it is small changes such as lighting, noise levels, movement, or tactile input that can make a meaningful difference in how these individuals experience their day. So we're going to go through 5 of the key sensory systems. So as an occupational therapist, we often think about the sensory systems when supporting regulation. We talk about the 5 senses: smell, taste, and we're going to go through a few on each slide that are really important, especially in dementia care, when we're thinking about appetite, food experiences, memory. Um, we're going to be talking about the nervous system, or regulation, movement, and participation, and how it influences these systems. So, today we're going to talk about the visual system, how our brain processes light, color, visual information. The auditory system is how our brain processes sound and noise in the environment. Tactile is how the body experiences touch, texture, and pressure. Proprioceptive input is the body's sense of muscle and joint input. That helps us to feel grounded and organized. And the vestibular system, which is responsible for balance and movement. So these systems strongly influence how regulated or overwhelmed someone may feel in an environment, which is why why it's particular when we're designing supportive spaces to focus on how we could activate one or all of these systems. It helps us to design better environments and activities to support regulation. So the visual environment, it plays a big role in how someone experiences a space. So I think about sometimes childhood classrooms that have a lot of colors and posters everywhere. Sometimes we think it's a good thing, but for some children or even adults, too much visual stimulation can increase confusion. Our brain has a hard time filtering all of the information that is being thrown at it, and we have a hard time processing and regulating. So, busy patterns, cluttered tables, glare from lighting can make it harder for the brain to process the information. And we can support the visual system by softening light, reducing clutter, creating clear visual cues, and then using high contrast objects when helpful. So if we have a client that maybe has glaucoma or low vision, maybe we want to put down a blue placemat before putting their snack or activity on it, so that they can see the difference between their white paper activity and there's contrast between the activity and the table that they're at. Just as kind of an example of that contrast. And then simpler environments often feel calmer and easier to navigate. I want to talk a little bit more too about the auditory system. So many individuals with dementia have difficulty filtering background noise. And we think about, as we get older, a lot of our older adults might have hearing aids, right? Sometimes that makes our background noise even more amplified. So when multiple sounds are happening at once, conversations, TV, music, the brain may struggle to focus. So, reducing unnecessary noise can help support regulation. Maybe we're choosing music or the TV, right? It just really depends on that activity that you're focusing on. But if you're noticing clients and participants are having a hard time engaging, try to limit the noise in the environment by turning off the TV, or maybe even reducing the volume of the music you're playing. I even recommend playing some classical music in the background. That usually helps to promote focus and decrease any anxiety. And music is really a powerful tool to utilize with clients. So just observation is key. I want to go over some of about the tactile, proprioceptive, and vestibular systems as well. So tactile system relates to touch. Touch can be grounding and calming for some people, but it can be alerting for others. Light pressure typically is a way that we would arouse a client, right? So if we tap them very lightly, usually you get that frightened response. So you would want to make sure you're approaching them from, in front of them, and you have their consent before touching, of course, and that it's more of a grounding, kind of maybe a little bit more pressure when you're doing a tap or a touch to alert them of, what's coming next. But some examples of tactile system that we can incorporate into activities, I think about soft fabrics, hand lotion or hand massage, fidgeting tools, or textured objects. Touch should always be introduced slowly and respectfully. You know your clients best, so just make sure to keep that in mind. And the proprioceptive system, it's one of the most regulating sensory systems that we have. So that's information about our body, position, muscle activity, and pressure. So activities that maybe include pushing, pulling, lifting, or squeezing, can help the nervous system feel more organized. I think about folding laundry, carrying objects, squeezing their putty, even chair yoga. I know too, some people have mentioned having bean bags at their facilities. Those are great. Weighted blankets, weighted stuffed animals. These activities can be very calming and help to reduce agitation. Similarly to when someone gives us a tight hug and it feels really good and we calm down, it's that proprioceptive input that we're responding to. And then the vestibular system, that relates to balance and movement. I think about slow walking, rocking chairs, gentle exercises, and even swaying with music. Movement and then should always be slow and predictable. When we have fast or sudden movement, that might increase anxiety or dizziness. So we want to be careful about that. Most people will have something like a preference for one of these systems. I know for myself, I like proprioceptive input. I love having a weighted blanket when I'm feeling anxious. And sometimes I'll even do tight squeezes up and down my arms. I would love for everyone to take a moment and share in the chat, what's something that you like in your own body to calm down. And then my second follow-up question is, what have you noticed with your caregiver or your participants at the daycare programs, or have any caregivers mentioned to you, my loved one enjoys this? I would love to hear a little bit more about that. Mary Catherine mentioned she loves the rocking chair idea. Yeah, it's very soothing. Cherry said she loves a temple massage. That's very nice too. So a little bit of that tactile, a little bit of proprioceptive input. Barbara said she likes to relax by music, so more auditory stimulation for her. Kia said a weighted blanket sometimes and soothing music. Very nice. So proprioceptive and auditory. Anna said doing yoga. So that's more of that maybe tactile, proprioceptive input. Good. Barbara said dim lights. Great. So visual system as well. Stephanie said music. Great. So auditory. Anne said we do warm hand massages for our members. I love sitting and reading or getting a manicure, pedicure. Just makes you feel pampered. And we do cool down stretches before lunch. That's fabulous. I want to sign myself up for all these programs. How fun. And such great ideas. It's good for us too to know how we regulate, so then we're able to share that with others and be more aware and see and observe, how do our participants respond to these certain systems and what is a preference that they might have, right? One person, just in this example alone, right? It's not one size fits all on preferences. Sandra said we do a seventh inning stretch at 2 and sing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Oh, very fun. That's fabulous. How can't you, I mean, I feel like you'd have to be in a great mood after that. That would just lift anyone's spirits. Great. Thank you all for participating and sharing such great ideas and feedback. I'm going to go through a few more examples of sensory activities that we can incorporate. Some of you might already be doing some of these activities, but for those of you that want a different idea, again, whether it's maybe for yourself or for a participant, good to keep in mind. So for the visual system, we're thinking soft, consistent lighting, minimizing glare and windows, reducing visual clutter, and then high contrast items. We want to use solid colors and clear visual anchors and cues to support orientation. For the auditory system, we want to reduce background noise, have a calm, familiar music, one voice at a time if we can. So I think about it in this sense, if we are maybe running a group activity and there's two facilitators involved, that it's very clear on who's speaking at once so that it's clear and calm for all participants of who they have to listen to and where they have to look, and that usually goes over a lot better. Quiet spaces that are available, and then observing whether music increases or decreases agitation. For the tactile system, we're thinking soft fabrics, textured materials, hand lotion or gentle massage, fidget tools, weighted lap pads. We also think about touch and being respectful while observing their response. For the proprioceptive system, we can think about chair yoga or wall push-ups, carrying objects, folding laundry, therapy. And this system usually significantly reduces anxiety and agitation. Then for the vestibular system, slow walking, rocking chairs, seated swaying, gentle exercise. The vestibular input should be very slow, predictable, and controlled. And I want to also add that any activity that you use and any sensory system that maybe you are integrating, that you can grade it up or down to find that just right challenge for those that you're including in the activity. I wanted to ask, what activities have you seen participants naturally gravitate towards that seem to calm them? Or what have families shared that maybe help? Great. I see adult coloring, holding a purse. Great. Lady, okay. Yes, thank you, Sherry, for being here. And thank you, Stan, as well. Great. Painting or coloring, holding a stuffed animal. Yeah, live music. Fantastic. Yes, these are all such great calming activities and great to fall back on. Easy enough to incorporate. So I know some of you might already do some of these hidden sensory regulation activities, but I'm going to run over them as well. Sometimes even going on a walk with a participant who's pacing or restless. That movement can provide vestibular and proprioceptive input, which can regulate their nervous system. Folding towels or laundry, that deep pressure, repetitive movement helps the brain to calm down and organize itself. Maybe we're playing music that's familiar to increase their mood and emotional regulation. The hand lotion or hand massage provides tactile and sensory input, which can help people feel more grounded and comfortable. I see Stan wrote in the chat arts and crafts. Sandra said dancing. Anne said a lot of members like games, golf pudding, bowling, painting, crafts, and some even take comfort by carrying a stuffed animal. And our members seem to love to dance. Fantastic. A lot of great active systems at play here. And we're already doing so much to help our participants with their regulation. So thank you all. And then the last activity I want to share is even a ball toss or balloon volleyball. I don't think any of us mentioned that just yet, but that ball toss helps with proprioceptive input as well. And then looking at some photo albums or even photo albums of other people at the facility or even what the facility used to look like and then renovations or even a photo album of the staff that's at the facility and a little bit of a bio about them. That's always fun to flip through as well. So additional activities, we were talking about a lot of this. I want to also add for auditory, not only can we play music, but you can also use nature sounds like rain or ocean or waves, humming, singing, or even just gentle storytelling. And then for the tactile system, we can think about Any activities to include with buttons or coins or different fabrics, rolling some Play-Doh or even warm towels, proprioceptive. We can also think about maybe if someone needed some help with moving some chairs and they were pretty high level and mobile, maybe that would be a good idea. Even stacking books or wiping the tables down, helping to clean up after an activity. And then for the vestibular system, maybe we're doing short walking groups for those that are mobile, passing a ball in a circle and doing a little bit of dual tasking, gently dancing, like we mentioned, um, and then gardening, watering plants, simple cooking activities and tasks are all other great useful and engagement for these systems. I also like to bring up too an activity idea of creating sensory friendly activity bags or sensory bins. Sensory bins too, can be stored in just a container that has a lid, and then maybe this is something that lives in the activities cabinet, right? So these are simple collections of items that provide sensory input and can help support nervous system regulation. From an OT perspective, this input helps to regulate the nervous system, and the nice thing about these bins is that they're inexpensive and easy to create. And you can really get creative with it, especially if you're maybe incorporating participants and even making one for a day. You can get simple bins for under $10 and then use materials like rice, measuring cups, beans, spoons, fabrics, pine cones, rocks, anything maybe you're finding outside, especially this time of the year in the spring in New Jersey. And then even water bins with floating objects. And those natural items can be especially nice. You can even do sensory kits depending on the time of the year and different holidays that are coming up, but even incorporating fidget tools. Does anyone at their facilities already have sensory friendly bins or bags that they do? Or is that something that's maybe included in a craft or project? Has anyone done that before? And then Anne said before that um, at her facility, they love balloon volleyball and they have a ball that we toss with questions that they can answer. Oh, that's the best. I've even seen kind of like a volleyball and then on it is written and like kind of on a Sharpie of different questions. So it sounds similar to that. Maria said, yes, we have sensory bins available for afternoon activity choice. That's awesome. And I love that it's a choice that different participants can choose one activity over the next, or someone that might need it and gravitate towards it can opt for it. Sandra said that our social workers use sensory bins. Miss Barbara uses the balloons, and Stephanie does sensory putty. And Anne said we have sensory blankets and other items they can pass along, and they seem to like simple puzzles. Fantastic. I wanted to talk a little bit about sensory tips. So at the end of the day, sensory friendly programs are about creating these environments where people feel safe and supported, and where their nervous system is regulated and people are able to engage in activities, connect with others, participate in daily routines, and experience moments of joy. So what really matters is the intention behind it, and even these small changes that can really make a meaningful difference in someone's day. And everyone here is doing that already. We're all making meaningful differences in their day to day and helping with their engagement and quality of life. So it's great to hear all of this feedback from you all. When we think about coaching families and caregivers, I want to remind you that as staff, you can support these families by sharing these observations about what you're noticing, what their loved ones might be gravitating towards that help with reducing any agitation or anxiety at the facility, so that family members can even incorporate some of these helpful tips and tricks at home. I know sometimes caregivers will let us know, they said they had a great day at the facility and they get home and they're anxious, right? Or they get home and they're exhausted or pacing back and forth, even though staff reported they were perfectly fine there. Well, what's happening? What does that look like? And I know sometimes, families, we can't necessarily always keep up with the amount of fun activities that these facilities have. So, what are some ways that they can help regulate their loved one at home that's client-centered for their needs that isn't too difficult either? So, some helpful conversation starters. I want to go through that a little bit. I know that sometimes at different facilities, you might have a care partner meeting where you touch base with families about this. And I do want to lead into what that typically looks like for communication for you all. But some helpful conversation starters might include saying, I've noticed your mom seems more overwhelmed in louder environments. You can say, we've noticed your dad seems to be more fatigued later in the afternoon. Sometimes lighting and activity levels can affect how people during that time of day feel. You can say, your mom seemed much calmer when we moved her to a quieter space during activities. Do you notice that at home? You can say, we noticed your dad really enjoys folding towels. It seemed to help him concentrate and feel more settled. You can say, I've seen that your mom participates more when activities are smaller crowds and less busy. Or maybe your dad seems more comfortable when we lowered the music during the group activity. Does anyone want to share maybe an observation, a way they usually communicate with families regarding sensory preferences, um, and what that looks like for your facility? Or even is it typical to let the families know what their behavior looks like and how to best support at home? Anyone want to share a little bit about that? What communication might look like with families? I know sometimes, right, we might only talk to the family when there's a crisis or, something happened behaviorally that caused a shift. But do we let the families know when it's positive as well? Or is that just not as typical with communication? Mary Catherine said, I like the positive approach, sharing what they do at the program and what works. Yeah, thank you. Anne said she does not always have direct communication with families, but our social worker does that quite well. Great. So there's good pass off and communication in between interdisciplinary teams to promote communication amongst the family. Anna said, I usually let the families know when they have a great day. Fabulous. And that's really important, especially too, some families will ask their loved ones if they had a good time. And sometimes they don't really maybe remember, or they say they don't, even though they had the best time ever. So it's always good feedback for the families to hear that, it was a positive experience. Because sometimes that causes families anxiety too when they're not sure how their loved one is going to handle the situation. Anna said, I try my best not to give always bad news. Good. That's good that you're intentional about sandwiching some great news in there. Stan said, we provide family support groups for sharing information. I like that. And that must feel really great for the families involved to be able to hear other families' experiences and be able to relate to everyone there. What a great opportunity. Maria said we have a communication book available for participants who are nonverbal. The only downside is if any medication changes or that happens, they only place it in the book. And unless staff shares, we don't know. So the book has check boxes to share how their day went and what they needed and if they ate lunch. That's great that you have a formal system of what that looks like for all of the participants so that you're able to refer back to it. I even like that idea to have it so that you notice changes of behavior, right? Stan said, absolutely, the sharing of information is very valuable. And Anna said, same as Jenny, we post pictures on Facebook of our activities and parties. Oh, amazing. Yeah, all very, very important. Thank you all for contributing and sharing your experiences. So, some outcomes of friendly adult day programs include increased emotional regulation, increased engagement in activities, participation in group programs, reduced agitation, improved caregiver satisfaction, and better quality of life for participants and workers. So, sensory friendly environments do not simply manage behaviors, but they create spaces where individuals living with dementia can feel safe, connected, and supported. So, some common questions that we get is what if someone refuses an activity? Well, that's okay. Sensory strategies should always be invitations, not demands. You offer choices and revisit the activity later. How long should sensory activities last? Sometimes it's short and successful is best. Even for 2 to 5 minutes of some calming input can really help the nervous system. Some people ask, what if something seems to make agitation worse? Well, then you want to make sure you're pausing and observing with that behavior because sensory needs, like we've mentioned, are individualized. So, what is calming for one person may be feeling overwhelming to another. And then, do these strategies work for all stages of dementia? Typically, yes, but they might look different. In later stages, sensory support might be a little bit more simpler, such as that music, deep pressure, or even gentle movement. And then, as I mentioned, we don't need any really special equipment. We are able to make use of the tools that we have, even if it's the way I started this presentation with playing a video off of YouTube, kind of setting the scene. And then safety considerations with sensory activities. We always want to monitor participants during activities, which you all already do, because we want to avoid any small objects that could be swallowed, sharp items that they might be cutting themselves with, or anything that might pose as a safety risk. And then sensory activities, they can increase a fall risk, right? So you want to just make sure you're grading the activity for the participant's level as a just right challenge. So if you have people that are maybe a bit of a fall risk, maybe we're doing more seated Tai Chi versus standing balance activities, right? Maybe you're doing a walking group for those that are able to participate, and then a seated group for those that it's safer at that level. And then if someone becomes overstimulated, again, utilizing your best judgment of reducing that input, moving them to a quieter area, and then adjusting lighting and environment when you're able to. And then I'm going to invite you to join me for just a few more seconds as we close out this presentation so I can bring you back to your body, back to your senses, so that you can carry on for the rest of your day. Good. I'm going to have everyone take 3 deep breaths for me, in through your nose and out through your mouth. Good. Second one when you're ready. Good. Thank you all for joining me with this again. And just again, noticing how easy it is to shift to a calmer state with limited resources for you and the clients that you serve. So thank you all for joining me and taking your time out of your busy days to join us. Thank you for the care that you provide every day. It truly does make a difference to all the clients that you serve and to their families. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And we appreciate you connecting with us here at Care to Caregivers. Again, I'm Dr. Angelica Katusko, and I'd love to open up if anyone has any questions or comments or feedback.
Lots of thank yous coming in our chat right there. That was so wonderful, Angelica. Thank you so much. I think we're all kind of aware of this, but it's just like such a good reminder about we have senses on so many levels. So we might be tuned into the noise, but we're not thinking about the visual or the tactile stuff. So this really helps pull it all together for us. So many helpful tips that you shared with us, a really helpful perspective, a lens for us to take. And everybody shared so many great examples here too, that all wonderful things that you are doing. So I'm taking away some ideas. I want a fish tank for sure that I can just look at, and a massage chair, reclining massage chair. Anna, we don't want you to get locked out of the building by all means. Does anybody want to share anything that they're going to try once they leave this webinar? What's one thing that you might try to implement at your center to help regulate yourself or regulation with your clients as well? Anybody want to share anything that you might try based on what you learned here today? Well, keep thinking, everybody. Hopefully, this got the wheels turning for you. So, you are going to get a handout after our session where you can continue to keep thinking about this and think about how you might want to implement something at your center. And Anna's sharing need to acquire more fabric samples because touch is important and something I have used before. Oh, I love that. Families might even have some samples that they want to donate to you too, or yarn, like unused yarn from other projects. So I love that. And that is just such a simple thing that we can kind of collect. So yes, fabric. Maria is agreeing to think about fabric as well. So yeah, I think we've all been expanded as far as the senses go and how we can incorporate that into our adult day programs. So thank you, friends, for being here. We know everybody is anxious to get on with their evening. Thank you for your feedback. If you want to click the link here, if not, when I send the follow-up email, if you want to click that for us, we would love for you to give us your feedback so we can improve. We want to design programs that are really helpful for you. So hope to see you at one of our upcoming sessions. Be well, friends.
Thank you, Angelica. You were
Thank you.
excellent.
Thank you. I appreciate that feedback.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Angelica.
You're welcome. Thank you,
Catherine. I love
everyone.
joining